Oh, take a breath right there. Good morning. How y'all doing? How's your mom and them? Good? It's a great day to be in community together, and as we begin, and Baji so beautifully did in the opening prayer, I am mindful to begin with an awareness of our brothers and sisters in California, and particularly in the Santa Rosa area. There was, just a few days ago, a call for our sister church, the Santa Rosa Center for Spiritual Living, at Reverend Edward Vilhune, for them to, instead of holding services, to be an emergency shelter this morning. However, the evacuation continued at such a pace that the entire area is evacuated, and they had to cancel services today. It's the largest evacuation they've ever had in that region, in that area. There's, from what I understand, only a very small portion of Santa Rosa that is still occupied. So our hearts and minds go out to all of those as we gather in comfort this morning. We allow that to connect to those who aren't able to do that right now. Amen? And we invite ourselves to carry the wings of the prayer of that right into our message today of seeing others as one. We've been focusing all month on the principle of cherishing the human family, looking at the principle of oneness and the principle of unity. Seeing others as one. And if I could add to the title today, you know, we participate in a global theme with our Centers for Spiritual Living, and so these titles come from there as part of the monthly and weekly themes. And sometimes I do some editing. You might have noticed. I rarely stick with whatever they suggest, but it starts me off. You know, you need a place to start, the kernel. So if I were to edit this, I would just say, seeing others as one, but not the same. As one, but not the same. That is the basis behind the practice of oneness. You know, I've shared here that when I was a kid, when I was in high school and college, I would go to the libraries and the bookstores, and I would remember those places you went to. We still have some good bookstores around, yes. So I love finding them. If anybody knows good old bookstores, I love good old bookstores. Let me know where they are so I can spend all my money. We have one in Portland, Powell's. You know Powell's Books? They used to advertise on Prairie Home Companion with Garrison Keillor. And it's a whole city block, several stories high, and I'd always walk out of there, you know, like this, new and used and everything in between. So I used to go to these bookstores, and I would look in the religious section, and I would look for the books that were the catalogs or the encyclopedias or specific books written, either encyclopedias of religions or sometimes there were books, and sometimes there were even whole encyclopedias on cults. And so I'd just pick up the book, and I would go to the glossary or the index, and I'd look up, you know, Ernest Holmes, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, Unity, Religious Science, New Thought. And I'd see if we were in there. I'd see where they had us listed in the Encyclopedia of Religions, because sometimes we weren't. And I'd see if they had us listed in the Encyclopedia of Cults. Most of the time we were. And then I'd find the page and I'd go to it. Sometimes I'd even buy the book because I was just so fascinated by it. And I was always delighted when I found us actually in the religious books, right? And I was always entertained when I found us in the cult books because the descriptions were always the same. In the cult book, they would say, these folks are dangerous because they believe in oneness. They believe that they're one with God. And over here, they would say, this is a new burgeoning spirituality that believes is one with God. They would say the same thing. It was like the author wrote the same books. But over here, there was a tone and there was something else added to the descriptions that was like, this idea is crazy, right? And I'm in the process of writing some stuff for next year for our theme and whatnot, and I've decided to include perhaps a chapter in what I hope will become a book. And the chapter will be, oneness is not crazy, but it is dangerous. Right? It's not crazy, But it is dangerous, and it's dangerous because of the radical implication of it. I was always so curious as a young person why the people who were writing the cult books thought it was such a dangerous and crazy idea. What could be so wrong? I assumed everybody thought oneness was a good idea. Right? I assumed, as Ernest Holmes would say, everything that lives and proclaims the glory of God, every person who exists manifests the life of God. There is one spirit in which we all live, one mind by which we all think, one body which we are all a part, and one light whose origins light up every man's pathway. I believed that as a very young person, and I was always curious as to why and how those who didn't. I grew up learning these things, and seeing others as one was simply understanding that the energy and essence that makes you you is also the same energy and essence that makes everyone else who they are. And that your task as a spiritual being is to see yourself reflected back in the experience of others. Seems simple, doesn't it? And I was so reminded of how easy this can be. The other day we were at the store, and some of you saw this Facebook post, and it was just so great. We had William in the stroller, and we were moving through the store, and we turned this corner, and there was a big Pampers display, this big giant box on the floor, and this the Pampers model that looked very similar to William, uncannily so. If you look at the post, a little girl, but very similar to the way their hair was and everything. And we turned the corner, and William's, he didn't skip a beat. He saw it before we did. And the stroller was in front of me, and as we turned this corner, he said, "Look, Daddy, it's me." Right? Mom caught it on video, and because he just kept talking about it. It's me, right? Now they did look strikingly similar, right? But that's the spiritual task that we have. It's just to look out into the world and say, "Look, it's me." That's why I like to say, this is my favorite joke, which nobody ever got in Portland, so I'm hoping you. My favorite joke is, what's God's favorite holiday? Halloween. Halloween, because the universal presence is always disguising itself, and for us to find it. Right? It looks like it's a mask. It looks like it's a dinosaur. It looks like it's a this or a that. Right? It looks like it's all these other things, but it's our task to open the door every day and say, "Look, it's me." Right? It's just a mask that's trying to scare us and this and that or entertain us. But it really is a universal presence that's under. We have to decide whether it's a trick or a treat, right? Whether it's trying to trick us or whether we move into treatment, right? Come on now. How do you like that? So the kids will do their little parade here later in the service this morning. But it's always so. I would do that when I would do counseling sessions, or I would have meetings with folks, or I would be experiencing the world in a way that I'd be like, "Oh boy, I gotta deal with this person again," and I would invite myself to be in that Halloween spirit to say, "Oh, there it is. There's God trying to trick me again." "Oh, they got a good mask on today. You know, that's a good outfit. The makeup is on point, right?" But it's just God trying to get our attention. It's a great song by Keb Mo called "God Trying to Get Your Attention," right? But I actually grew up in this teaching hearing another song, a song by the group Alliance. And this song, when I was doing the sermon prep last night, it just kept coming back to my mind. And this happens every once in a while throughout the year, because it's one of those that embedded itself in me as a young person. This group Alliance. You know the group Alliance? It was this group, it was New Thought's original boy band. David Alt was a member of the boy band. That's how he got on the scene. And I posted a video of them. You got to check it out on Facebook. You got to check it out. Just look up Alliance. There's some great videos from the 80s. This is 1987, and I'm a young man in these churches, and they're going around doing these concerts, and they are in sync of New Thought. I mean, they are the thing, man. They are, the bomb. And I had all their tapes and go to their concerts, and we played their stuff at camps and the youth groups and whatnot. And their music had a way of capturing the profound implication of our theology, of our philosophy, but in such a simple way, and with a little beat. I was doing the Carlton. I was enjoying myself. You know that one? That's about all I can do, by the way. And I used to keep this shoebox under my bed, and in the shoebox it had the programs from Sunday service, and I would take out the song lyrics, I would take out the affirmations, the meditations and things. I'd take out all the spiritual stuff, and I'd put them in this shoebox, and I'd keep the shoebox under my bed. And any time in my life I was having a bad day or going through some challenge or just not feeling myself, I would go to my room either at night or in the morning or any time and, lock the door if I needed to, and I'd take out that shoebox and I'd sit there and I'd read those affirmations and I'd read those songs and I'd try to remember the melody to the song and how the tune went, and I would do them over and over and over again until something came over me and I felt better. And one of those songs that I did that with was this New Thought classic called I Love Myself the Way I Am. And it has such a profound way. It's a hokey little tune. I mean, it's 1987. It's got some cheese on it. But it's deep. You got to look past the cheese. You got to find it's like something at a restaurant. You got to kind of get past the cheese and find the good stuff that's in there, right? And it says, I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. Think about hearing this as a young child. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful. I'm capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. Now that's the main lyric. And that really sums up what our teaching is, right? About ourselves. But it goes further than that. The reason I love this song is it doesn't just stay there at the personal level. Sometimes I've been critical of our theology in terms of an overall expression that we stay at that individual level. And that individual level of empowerment is beautiful and important, but there's so much more to our work than that. And actually, the reason perhaps I think that so deeply and push for that in a social justice way in our churches and in our ministry and our movement today is perhaps because this song was so deeply embedded in me. Listen to the next line. I'm beautiful. I'm capable of being just the best me I can. I love you the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy to love you. Behind your fears, your rage, and your tears, I see your shining star, and I love you just the way you are. Right? So we go from the personal to the outer expression. I see you. I see behind your tears, your rage, your fears. I see behind all of that there is something inside of you that is beautiful, that is capable, that is connected to the same love that I am connected to. You feel that? Now listen, it doesn't stop there. It says, I love the world the way it is because I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. I love myself the way I am, and still I want to grow, but change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful, I'm capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. That's it, right? Now listen, we go from the inside, I love myself, I love you, and I love the world just the way it is because I can see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. Ooh, it's simple, it's got a hokey little tune to it, but that's deep right there. That's deep. They say, hold the phone. All the things I judge are done. Another 80s reference. Get your bingo cards out. What you talk about, Willis? You say, hold on a second. All the things I judge are done by people just like me? Yeah. Oh, I got a lot of judgments right now about the way the world is and what's working and what's not working. You mean to say that all of that is a reflection of my consciousness. That's what we teach. So let's break it down. Somebody say break it down. Let's start at the top. There's only one of us. According to quantum physics, get this, everything on a subatomic level in the physical and non-physical universe is part of one infinite field of energy and matter, swirling, moving, and vibrating at various rates and speeds. On a subatomic level, it is not possible to determine where anything begins or ends because there is no true separation of individual energies despite appearances. Nothing exists outside of this field of energy and matter. The essence of our oneness is our connection to this infinite field of energy and matter. On a subatomic level, it is impossible to determine where you begin and I end. It's impossible. It's all one field of energy vibrating at different levels, at different frequencies, in different sound waves and particles and motions. And what makes up this podium and this book and everything else are all part of the infinite field of energy. You following that? You were quite literally everything and everyone. At a subatomic level, there's no separation between you and the chair that you are sitting in or the people seated around you. There is no you and them. There is no me and them. There is only one. There's one undivided energy infinitely manifesting itself in beautiful creativity and diversity and expression all around us. Now, this unity, if we can grapple with that idea, if we can embrace that idea, if we can go, okay, I get it on a cellular level, there's just energy, I'm one with all of that, but surely the way I'm expressing and the way they're expressing, and we're oneness, but we're not the same, right? Yes, indeed, because that gets us to the second phase. The second phase of this is understanding that unity does not mean uniformity. We're to cherish the human family, then we honor and celebrate our diversity, rather than bypass it with spiritual platitudes about oneness. And so we're moving into an age and a phase where we are really beginning to understand the deep appreciation for all of the rich cultural diversity and expression that comes from this field of oneness. And that those things are to be celebrated and honored and lifted up, because unity does not mean uniformity. We are each unique in our cultures and in our unique ways. I shared in our leadership class, we were talking about some things this related to this, and that when I was a kid, I was curious about our own culture, my family's cultural background. And I would ask my mom, and my mom could only tell her what her mother told her. And what her mother told her when she said, well, what are we? She said, a whole lot of everything and a little bit of everything and a whole lot of nothing. Right? And it was her way of kind of dismissing even the question. And it turns out my grandmother really didn't know, or certainly didn't have a deep appreciation for the diversity. And then a number of years later, through an aunt of mine whose mother would make her well, I don't remember what it makes her, but my great aunt's actually cousin. Anyway, this person, right? Her mother did all this family research on our family lineage. And so one day we were at our farmhouse in Wisconsin. We pulled out this box, and it was this huge treasure trove, all of these files organized by family origin. And she had written, this is long before the age of the internet, she had written to libraries and cities and hospitals and counties and all of these things, and gotten correspondences back and typewritten notes and handwritten notes. And it was just huge treasure trove of stuff. It was, and I said, this is fascinating. I'm really into this kind of stuff. Can I take this? And she was like, no, you can't have it. That was my mother's. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, can I go to Kinko's and copy it? So I went to Kinko's, I copied it, as much of it I could, and began digitizing it and began putting it up in Ancestry and these different places, and began going further the research than the research that had already been done, and finding new generations and all of these things. And what I discovered was this huge map of connectivity that brought us to England back in the 1200s, and further back than that, and Scotland and Ireland, and all kinds of family lineage that connects all over the United States and all over Northern Europe. My wife wanted to do the genealogy because she thought I'd had surely some flavor of something in there somewhere. But it turned out it came back out, 99.9% Northwestern European. And she said, that is a whole lot of white. That's exactly what she said. I said, well, but it's everywhere. And we have the Compton family and the Commie family, the Commons family that were the resistors to Robert the Bruce, and my family's talked about in movies and from Shakespeare and all these kinds of interesting ways, including, I almost forgot the name now, Calhoun, the first mayor of Atlanta, is a cousin, I think. But the family is a lineage that I'm connected to and is a great-grandfather of mine. The Calhouns are from South Carolina, and the Calhoun that was the first mayor of Atlanta is connected to that as well. I haven't found the direct connection there yet, but it's all over the place, right? So we're here to celebrate all of those unique things about ourselves, to bring those out and to own them and claim them, the good parts, the bad parts. I'm sure there's some good people in that history. I'm sure there's some not so wonderful people in that history. And we get to embrace all of it as part of the infinite inclusivity of who we are. But here's the thing. In our unique expressions, this is where we make the mistake of thinking ourselves as exclusive or separate from others. In the lifting up of our own identities, we tend to think that that identity, that family lineage, or that cultural background is somehow better or superior to another. And that is where we begin to drift away from the principle of oneness that ties us all together. My friend Walter Starkey says, if exclusion or separation is the origin of man's sin or the fall of man, or the cause of all of our ills, then inclusion is the ascent of humanity, or the salvation of humanity. He says, exclusive interests, things are falling apart, he says in his book, It's All God. He says, things are falling apart because exclusive interests are no longer viable. Until organizations and individuals are motivated by ways that do not reject, but include the ideas and beliefs of others, they have yet to recognize the paradigm shift that is well underway. I was just watching the other day, I saw a news story that said that New York law firm and law school rather, one of the biggest law schools in the country in New York, is now teaching world religion classes to all of their students. Why? Because they're realizing the need for the graduates to have a well-versed, cultural, diverse vocabulary and appreciation for the religious traditions of the world so that they can better relate to their clients, right? Who thought, who went to law school thinking they'd be taking a world religions class, right? But it's happening. And so where else, what better place than here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta and Centers for Spiritual Living globally to learn to appreciate our oneness and our diversity all at the same time? Who else is going to teach the world in this bifurcated, polarized, left, right, conservative, liberal agitation that we currently are experiencing? Who else is going to step forward into the gap of that polarization and teach about oneness, inclusivity, and honoring in a way that says not only are we one, but we're also uniquely different, but that doesn't make us separate from each other? Who else is going to learn that vocabulary than you and I and people like us in rooms just like this all over the country? You tell me who. And if there's somebody else who can do it, I wish they'd step up and hurry up, but I think we're the ones. I think we're the ones, and that's why we're here. You following what I'm saying? Yes. And so how do we begin to stay focused in a world so committed to the separate self? One thing I've learned growing up is that this world is committed to you identifying yourself as separate from everybody else. Our world, our marketing, everything is geared, our politics, everything is geared towards continuing to divide and separate us. There have been times when I have gotten into conversations online about politics and the right and the left and all of that, and I'll concede points that others are making and this sort of thing, and then I'll chime in and I'll say, but you have to understand, they want you to hate me. And they over here want me to hate you. That's the whole point of the conversation. They want us to be separated and agitated at each other. They want us to be divided, because when we're divided, only the few win and get the power and get the control of everything else. But when we come together in a united front that is diverse and inclusive, that is black and brown and gay and straight and Christian and non and Jewish and Buddhist and Hindu and non-religious and spiritual and agnostic, when we get together in coalitions that are bigger than the things that we identify with, then the people that currently have the power can't win. They can't win. But here's the thing about that. Dare you accuse me of making a separatist statement right there, right? Because when the mass of humanity wins as one, then truly everyone wins. And all of the things that those who try to divide us are after, they'll actually get in a better way than they ever thought possible. Because the one of us that includes all of us doesn't leave anybody out. And so how do we remember this? We remember this, one, by constantly reminding ourselves that there's only one of us here. Secondly, that we are unique but not separate. And thirdly, by taking the as I say, the golden rule to the next level. You know the golden rule, yeah? Golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Treat others as you want to be treated. And you can find the golden rule articulated in every religious tradition in the world. They have some version of the golden rule throughout time and history. But you know what? Let's kick it up a notch. Somebody say, kick it up a notch. Let's take the golden rule platinum. Like, gold platinum, baby. The golden rule says, treat others as you want to be treated. The platinum rule says, treat others as they want to be treated. Treat others as they want to be treated. You can treat other people the way you want to be treated, but you might be treating somebody in a way that they're saying, I don't know what you're doing. Okay? You're buying me coffee. I don't drink coffee. Right? I drink tea. That's not true. I drink coffee. I really do. But you understand what I'm saying? You're treating somebody else the way you want to be treated. That's still about getting your needs met. But you take it platinum and you're trying to treat other people the way they want to be treated, then suddenly you have to be in relationship with them. You got to know them. You got to know what they like and what they don't like. You got to know what their passions are. You got to know what their family needs are. You got to know something about them. You got to be connected in a oneness kind of way. You got to begin to see yourself in the other so that you can treat them with compassion and love the way that they would want to be treated. And what would happen if you really stepped up and allowed yourself to serve humanity in the way others want to be treated? What you would discover is that it would come back to you faster than you could possibly think. The gratitude, the love, the appreciation, the generosity, the forgiveness, all of those things would come flooding back to you because they would say, this is a person who gets it. Oh, you'd be invited onto committees and boards and places to serve because they would say, this person is awake. They understand what's going on. We want this kind of consciousness. Oh, you'd accelerate in your business. You'd get promoted. They'd say, we need this person in management. If you're already in management, they'd say, we need this person up at the top. This is the kind of consciousness we need in this company, in this business, because they understand how to treat other people the way they want to be treated. They understand that deepness of connection. You understand what I'm saying? And so what happens when we still see each other doing things? We say, go back to that line. I judge, all the things I judge are done by people just like me. Wow, I can think of some things. I say, really? That is something that I'm capable of? And capable is the key. Because you might be saying, well, but I don't do those things. I don't speak nasty like that. I don't yell at people. I don't mistreat people. I don't think of myself as superior. I'm a good person. I go to this great church. I'm a nice person. All these other people that are just one-off, man, they're the problem with society. Right? Come on, who thinks it? I know, not on Sundays, but it takes you a few days. It wears off. Let's say come Wednesday or so. Is that right? You get to creep back in. You can bring yourself back to church the next week. That's why we're here, week after week. Right? Well, we all go there sometimes. But if we think all the things I judge are done by people just like me, then what it requires to stay in the practice of oneness is we have to bring in the practice of forgiveness. We have to begin forgiving ourselves and forgiving other people for not meeting our demands and expectations. We started talking about this in Foundations class, and we talked about the formula for accelerating compassion in our life through the practice of forgiveness by, one, telling the truth. You got to start by telling the truth of what's going on. You got to tell the truth. How many people know you can't do anything, you can't heal anything unless you tell the truth about it? An alcoholic can't get free until they tell the truth about their habit. A person in an abusive relationship can't get free until they tell the truth. We were talking about forgiveness, and somebody brought up an elected official, and they said, and I said, we got to do some deep reconciliation and healing work in this area. And I said, we have to release, for me, forgiveness is releasing the demands and expectations that block the path of love. Somebody shows us and demonstrates us, thank you, Maya Angelou, somebody shows us who they are, we need to believe them. So if somebody shows us over and over and over again that they're not capable of doing something, they're not capable of being compassionate, they're not capable of including others, they're not capable of thinking at a high level, if they're not capable of whatever it is, then we need to stop holding them to the expectation of that. Because holding people to expectations, watch it now, holding people to expectations that they've proven that they can't fulfill is called being in an abusive, codependent relationship. It doesn't work. And somebody said, but aren't they capable of more love and this and that and the other thing? And I said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Now, you can hold the fact that they're infinitely capable of growing into their highest good, while at the same time not putting yourself in a direct relationship with the individual that requires them to disappoint and let you down over and over and over again. Some people need to grow up, and they need to go off on their own and grow up. Right? Tell the truth now, because I know there have been times in my life, and there have been times probably in your life where you needed to go off and grow up. It wasn't right for you to be in relationship at that particular time. You needed to get some stuff done internally, right? And for you to do that stuff in the context of relationship would have been abusive to the other person. You had to go get your own house in order so that you could then be in a healthy relationship. Am I talking? So when we understand that we can forgive and release the expectations, then we no longer hold that person in those positions in which they continuously fail. We allow them to grow up. We allow them to get a hold of themselves, and we still hold them as capable in that space. You understand what I'm saying? Then we forgive, and then we step into new behavior. And then we begin to see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me, holding in that compassion for healing and that possibility for revelation for the individual allows us to understand that I know that I've grown in my life, so I know other people can grow too. I know that while I might not be demonstrating that behavior, somebody else in the class said, well, those things that are being done over there by those people, you can fill in the blanks with whatever you want because it doesn't really matter, the particulars, those people over there, I've never done those things. Right? I've never acted that crazy or that rude or that whatever. I hold myself to a different standard. Right? So, yeah, but here's the thing. You're capable of that. You're capable of that. You might not be choosing that, which is good for you. You're an enlightened being, right? And I would suspect that most of us are. But we're all capable of. There was a study that was done after World War II in the 50s. Exactly about this, and it was a study in which they had people answering questions, and they were hooked up to electrodes. If you took a psychology 101 class in college, you probably learned about this, and they were hooked up to electrodes, and there was a person behind the glass with a dial and a button, and they would ask the person questions, and if the person got the question wrong, they would have to hit the button. And if they got several questions wrong in a row, they'd have to turn the dial up and hit the button again. And there was another person in a lab coat that was instructing them what to do, giving them the questions, and then if they were getting successive questions wrong, to increase the heat on the electric shock. Now, it was all a facade. It was all, everybody was in on the experiment except the person turning the dial and pushing the button. The box wasn't hooked up to anything. The person acting shocked was just acting. The doctor was in on it, and it was an experiment to see what we are capable of when authority tells us to do something and we think we're doing something. So there were people who were like, and they were told, they were explained, now this is the dial, and this is a mild, this feels like just a little prick, and then this over here is going to hurt a little bit, it's going to buzz for a minute, and this over here, this is dangerous. This could repeatedly, in this red zone over here, could do some damage to the person, right? And so as the experiment would go on, the person would continue to get the question wrong, and the doctor would say, turn it up, they're not getting it. 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 And some people would resist and say, I can't do it. My morals won't let me do it. But then the doctor would say, turn it up. Anyway, I told you to turn it up. And eventually, everybody in the experiment, everybody, some did it sooner than others, but eventually everybody sitting down at that box would turn that dial to the red zone and push the button and shock the person. We're all capable of doing things that we want to think that we're not capable of. We're all doing. You just mentioned my child, right? You just say something bad about my children or my wife and watch what happens to you, right? We all have that place. We all have that button within us. We think, well, I'm a good person. I would never hurt anybody else. But you got a line in there somewhere, right? Here's the thing. Hurting people hurt people. And so all of the behavior that's being done in the world that we want to think ourselves separate from, that we want to think ourselves better than, are being done by people who have deep pain operating in them. I said in our Wednesday night foundations class, I said if we really understood the pain that was happening, the pain, the psychological and mental, emotional pain that was happening from the highest elected person in the land right now, we would actually be brought to tears about how much pain that individual is in. That individual is in a lot of pain. Hasn't gotten a good hug in a long time. Got a pretty wife, but hasn't gotten a good hug in a long time. You understand what I'm saying? You've seen her. Touch me. The pain that's inflicted on the world comes from painful places, from hurt people. If we really understood our oneness, we would step into forgiveness and compassion and create a vibration when we can see ourselves and the others, including the most horrendous people we could think of, and have compassion for our own capacity to hurt others when we feel hurt. And we would step into a vibration of love and forgiveness that could literally heal the world. And it's all capable, it's all possible in this very moment. That's the capacity that we carry with us, the capacity to heal the planet. In Richard Rohr's book, Richard Rohr is a Catholic mystic called The Universal Christ. He has this, it's called The Divine Mirror. It's a poem, and I want to read just a few sections of it to close, and then we will pray. Take a breath. In The Divine Mirror, he says this. He says, a mirror receives and reflects back what it sees. It does not judge, adjust, or write commentary. We are the ones who do that. A mirror simply reveals and invites responsibility. A mirror, the sun, and God are all the same thing. They are all there, fully shining forth. Their very nature is light and love and infinite giving. You can't offend or make them stop shining. You can only choose to stop receiving and enjoying. As soon as you look, you will see that they are still there and fully radiating as they always have been. And their message is constant, good, and life-giving. There are only the lookers and the non-lookers, those who receive and those who do not. When we learn to love anyone or anything, it is because we have somehow, if just for a moment, that they have somehow, if just for a moment, have mirrored us truthfully yet compassionately to ourselves. I want you to hear that one again. When we learn to love anyone or anything, it is because they somehow, if just for a moment, have mirrored us truthfully yet compassionately to ourselves. And if that mirror is withheld for any reason, it causes sadness, emptiness, or even anger. We are normally disoriented, even heartbroken for a while. We die in some way. But why? Because we only know ourselves in another's eyes. We receive our identity, all of it, good and bad, from another. But the other both creates us and saves us. This is what we call the pure gift of holiness, or if you prefer, wholeness. We are always a giving, a resonance, and never a possession of our own. We are always a giving, a resonance, never a possession of our own. That's a good way to tell me that I've talked too long. Just turn the mic off. We are always a giving, a resonance, never a possession of our own. Life is always mirroring back to us that which we put into it. Every relationship that we have is mirroring back to us ourselves. And so in this moment, take a breath. As the practitioners join me in creating a collective field of consciousness, that right where they are, the infinite presence of God is. Right where I am, the infinite presence of God is. And right where you are, online and in this room, we create a holy moment of connection with this divine life, with this radiating presence. And we give ourselves the gift of being able to see this presence in others, mirroring itself back to us, truthfully, yet compassionately. Truthfully, because it doesn't hide anything. And so that which is being reflected back to us as hurt or pain or ugliness or disassociation or the dis-ease of the world is revealing to us the places where we need to do more work, more healing, more forgiving, more compassion. And our great responsibility is to radiate back all that we know about ourselves, that I am beautiful, capable of being the just best me that I can. And I love myself just the way I am. And I love you just the way you are, that I can see behind the tears and the rage and the fear, you're a shining star. And I love the world just the way it is, because I can see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. And so, till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. By loving everything. I see myself in everything. I behold the presence everywhere. And I am grateful for this divine seeing, for this insight, for this growth and this transformation. Take a breath. We dedicate ourselves now to seeing from this divine holy place as we release these words in this prayer, knowing that it is already done. And it is our great joy to walk in the world as the divine mirrors of God and to let that light shine into every dark place. For this and so much more, I'm truly grateful and thankful. And so it is.